Hey, hello, people. I am Andrew Ike, Soil Jurisdiction Sheriff in the unincorporated Richland County, Ohio. With me, as always, Sheriff Adam, Sheriff Adam Bonner from the unincorporated Summit County, Ohio. How you doing, Adam?
Excellent. You?
Doing good. It was a good day, good weather. I think it's getting ready to storm. You said it was up your way, kind of like that too, huh?
Yeah, it's about to storm up here.
Well, you just have to deal with it, I guess. Well, anyways, people, you're watching Restore the Republic, the show where we explore how every day people can take back their power and restore their lawful governance and reconnect with the original principles of self-determination. Today's episode is a deep dive into political status correction, unincorporated county assemblies, and the strategic use of public notices. If you ever felt like your voice doesn't matter in the government, this episode's for you. So let's get it rolling. Adam, got a question for you. Why do you think people need to change their political statuses?
Well, most Americans operate under a political status they never consciously chose, being a U.S. citizen. So, when you register to vote, get a driver's license, or sign government forms, Social Security forms, for instance, W-2s, you're often unknowingly consenting to be governed under corporate municipal law, statutory law, not the original Constitution, if you will, and its framework. Basically, you're subject to it.
Yeah, these hospitals have been doing this for a long time. They're getting these the women who are having the babies, get them to sign this paperwork, and the ladies aren't really looking at the paperwork they're signing. They're signing them right into this U.S. citizenship, and it, I know here as for us, the state nationals on all 50 states, we did pass a public law about that, didn't we?
Off the top of my head, I do believe that we passed three different public laws over the past few years, combating against that. Whether or not they're taking heed to it or acknowledging it, don't know, because they never still seem to respond to us. So, anyways, we're just going to keep on pumping this stuff out, and Eric Goodman coming at you. All of your council meetings.
There you go.
We're going to be there.
Well, I'll tell you what, that status we're talking about, the U.S. citizenship, it makes you a resident of this country or of your state or a citizen. We were talking about this before. I've discussed this many times, that the Residency Act and everything like that, and the only right a U.S. citizen has is to reside in this country. That's their only right. You always hear them talking about constitutional rights, this and that, but they don't understand who they are and who's governing them, governing them.
Right.
But, it means you have, your rights are basically privileges granted by a policy, not protected by law, and changing your political status is about reclaiming your birthright and being a free individual under common law jurisdiction. So, we want to get out to the people. How do we change your political status? How do we get them to do that? The changing of your status, it's not just symbolic, it's a lawful process. And maybe you can go over kind of how that process works.
To understand the difference between statutory and common law jurisdictions, you could look at resources like the American States Assembly or state-specific freedom groups. It's a good way to start. Two, you would, after contacting them and figuring out what they had to offer paperwork-wise, what's necessary to exit the matrix, you would start preparing your documentation. Usually, your basics that you need is your 1779 and political status declaration. So, yeah, Yeah, your revocation of signature under duress and claim of life would be a couple other ones.
Yeah.
But typically, it would just be your 1779. You would have two witness testimonies who are going to witness you autograph and do your thumbprint. Which also I would like to state that in common law, your thumbprint is your seal. That is your, with two other witnesses, is your notary.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we had public notaries, and it's kind of gone commercial under the bar system to where notary publics are commissioned through the Bar Association. So, what happened to public notaries? What happened to international notarial witnesses? Well, they don't want you to know about them.
Yeah, I think
Well,
people
that's
our
what happened
age,
to 'em.
I think people our age noticed that. I did. I noticed it, because you'd see signs around town of certain people that were public notaries.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
I
all of a sudden
remember.
it changed to notary public. And like, okay, what's going on here? And at that time I had no clue of what was happening, but it all makes sense now.
Yeah, I think I recall a couple offices up till about 93 or 94 that were public notice or notaries in the area. Oh, over in Akron, North Hill area. Just like public accountants, all that stuff's kind of, under different titles too, acronyms usually, LPA, CPA type stuff. So, yeah, we could talk about that stuff all day long, but basically, okay, so what's happened is a shift in jurisdictions to where they're basically telling you that you're a subject under statutory civil, or there's civil courts of equity, and that you're not afforded 14th Amendment rights, and that you're not going to have Bill of Rights, constitutional guaranteed protected rights, unalienable rights. They don't care. We're talking contract commercial at this point.
Yeah.
So, have you ever noticed that anything that goes through the mailbox to your administrator or to your agent, that usually if you read anything that they send, it's usually some type of threat in there. If you don't respond to this within 7 to 10 days, you could have your license suspended or be fined, or that in conjunction with, possibly going to jail or being held in some type of contempt. And so, threat, duress, and coercion right off the bat. You're threatening me that if I don't perform in your legal process, now all of a sudden, the boogeyman's going to come jump on me, and I'm going to get fined. And so you're reaching your hand in my pocket, and now my freedom's going to be taken away. Like, that's not how that's supposed to work. And another thing is, it seems like everything's kind of turned around, done a complete 180 from innocent until proven guilty to now it's guilty until proven innocent.
Oh yeah.
And that's the system that we're currently in.
Yeah.
It's not
I
the other
know.
way around.
On these videos, and even just out in my normal day, I try to talk to so many people, and it's like, how can you not see this stuff? God, doesn't this stuff bug you, that how people just get railroaded day in and day out? And you know what? I think the current climate we're in politically and economically, I think it's opening up more people's eyes, because people are starting to really hurt. They're seeing that these two foreign corporations in DC, they're not understanding that yet. And it's so easy. All you got to do is go to Dun and Bradstreet's. I've said it a million times. Type in their names: United States Inc., the USA Inc., the US Inc. It'll bring it up, tell you who charters them, tells you everything about them. So we got two foreign corporations acting as your government, thinking they're running the show. And people just got to get on this stuff. You're not going to keep repeating this stuff on YouTube and Facebook. You got to get in the books and read and learn. You're a big pusher of that. You've actually got me starting to read a lot of stuff.
It never ends. Yeah. So pretty much what you'll find is that, they're kind of forcing, you're not getting a say in the matter. You're not able to really respond with a rejection or a rebuttal. The next thing you know, their administrative deputies end up showing up from the commercial side, banging on your door, trying to come get you because, they need to make their, pound of flesh off you on the private side of their ledgering.
Yeah, I
That's
think they call
where
it. Yeah,
you create the money
yeah,
through
they
the
call
penal
it
code
getting the
system.
shaft, I guess. you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really not rocket science. I mean, we have flow charts that show kind of how the CRIS system works and how their whole operation is. And,
Yeah.
we can't get the feds to look at it. We can't get the DOJ to do anything. Everybody's just kind of sitting back. And a lot of these commercial sheriff's departments and police departments who are under collaborative agreements, they're all getting kickbacks for, primarily the commercial sheriffs, but the majority of them are getting kickbacks one way or the other from pushing these statutory or things pertaining to codes, regulations, or that's their means to revenue us.
Yeah.
So again, I have to keep reiterating this. Those types of things are not for living people, Americans, people status corrected, even U.S. citizens, technically, because it says right in their laws that, that is for federal employees.
Yeah.
So how do they get you to be subject to that? Well, they start playing word salad games. We're going to call people individuals for taxation purposes. Well, you start looking at what an individual is. You start looking at the different types of persons. There's like 5 or 6 different types. And, you start kind of going, well, what the heck? Like, we weren't taught this. When you say people, are you talking about the little p people? Or are you talking about the uppercase, lowercase people, or the all caps people? I
A lot of
encourage
people
people
don't
to
know
start
that. It's
questioning
just a
this
simple,
stuff.
different jurisdictional issue there.
Right.
All
Yeah,
right.
there's a
Well,
lot of things. Start questioning those things. The
yeah,
words that are being used, what do they mean? Start looking them
exactly.
up.
Look into it. Research this stuff. You got to take some time and do some research, not just listen to everybody on Facebook.
Yeah,
Well, anyways,
RJ
we just went
McMaster.
over a little bit about why you should change your political status and a little bit on how you should change your political status. Like he was saying, there's places to go. We got the TASA.AmericanStateNationals.org. There's a good place. And you can find the paperwork. There's even that new organization, Stand Up, right?
Right.
They got, I guess, a document generator that can just make you the documents. It's a good thing. It's not very expensive. I think it's under $50 maybe. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
in the ballpark.
you can get your political status changed. That's the thing. So that's the why, the how. So here'd be the next question: why join an unincorporated county assembly? Once your status is corrected, the next step is to reconnect with your local governance, not the incorporated city council, but the unincorporated county assembly. Why would that be, Sheriff?
Well, I'll give a shout out to Lee Daniel. I actually follow her on one of the social platforms that I communicate on. Well, to answer your question there, because incorporated governments are corporate franchises, they operate commercial, statutory, different types of codes, things like that are for federal employees only. They're subjects to that. But for some reason, just regular people, unbeknownst to them, have been unlawfully converted into these things. And it's like RJ says, I am not the hue man person. Well, I'm not the hue of man person. Yeah. So that's that's clickbait right there. When I see people put the dash there like that, I'm like, I got to go look that up. Well, I know what the hue of man is. It's not a living being like you would think, like we've learned our whole lives.
Shade, a color of a man.
Right. So, there's no constitutional law involved in how they operate as franchises or, foreign subcontractor agents. So, unincorporated assemblies are the lawful bodies of the people, lowercase p people. They represent their original jurisdiction, land and soil jurisdiction, or at the county level, national soil jurisdiction, NSJ. You'll see that in front of my title, my badge, my star.
Yeah.
So, where the people govern themselves is, it's at two levels. It could either be at state level or, when you come down to the national soil jurisdiction on the counties, you'll find, Americans there too. So pretty much, joining the various types of assemblies. I mean, there's technically one right one, and there's a couple other ones that are kind of giving us a bad name. We're kind of tracking what they're doing. Some of them are what you would call like a district assembly.
Yeah.
We have some people who have come over from district assemblies because they weren't really, doing anything meaningful or really assembling, and it just become kind of a proverbial shit show, where people just want to power monger or fear monger people and, belittle or bully them because one claims that they've researched to know more than another. And then, they're not really sharing anything to educate people. And then on the other hand, we have other so-called assemblies that are doing the same types of things. It's like they're vetting people before they can come in based off of talking to them over the phone or through email, just to kind of feel them out and see, what type of knowledge foundation they have. And I don't agree with either of those. I think that people need to be able to come somewhere where they can be around like-minded people and have resources available to them so they can educate themselves and so they can learn how to self-govern, because self-governance is where it's at.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't need anybody helping me to do anything, just like you don't. We're capable of doing it ourselves.
I agree. This isn't a, becoming a state national. It's not a membership club. It's, if you want to come, change your political status and join us. I don't have to vet anybody. Once you get
Right.
into our county assembly, it's up to you. Hey, what would you like to do? What are you good at? You good at banking? Do you want to get in the banking committee? Do you want to, there's all kinds of stuff to do. We are the government,
Right. It's like Lee says here, in Black's Law, which I have that I think it's even in my 8th edition. The hue of man is a monster.
Yeah.
Okay. That's in their dictionary, not ours. We go off of Bouvier's or a couple various other ones. But, if you wanted to get involved, you would get status corrected. You would start reaching out to figure out whether you got like a coordinator or somebody who does outreach, with these groups that status correct folks into becoming an American again. So you would learn there how to participate, in your lawful elections. Once you get on, you're going to learn about passing resolutions that reflect the will of the people, other like-minded Americans. And then you would start reconstructing local infrastructure outside corporate control. It's not so much about control, it's about standing. Do you want to be legally standing, which is the undoing of God's law, or do you want to be lawfully standing, in your lawful person? Do you want to know how to operate as your lawful person? Or do you want to learn how to be in whatever type of agency capacity or executor or beneficiary capacity? This all has to do with self-governance. So some people,
it's a hard thing to do. A lot of people, I was just talking about this the other day with my son. A lot of people, there's a percentage that don't want to self-govern because of the benefits they're receiving. They think it's beneficial to them, and you don't have to change your political status. You can stay over there and be a U.S. citizen, kind of a slave to the grind, but you want to be free, you want to self-govern, you come on over to us. So the question would be,
I guess I could
go ahead.
I could expound a little bit more on that. So, there's a lot of people who they're worried because, if you leave one jurisdiction to go to another, they think that, I'm not going to be able to get certain types of benefits that they work their whole lives for. And
Yeah.
so my answer to that is, whether you're a veteran, whether you were a Leo, firefighter, nurse, somebody that just worked at a gas station your whole life, or maybe a mechanic, it doesn't matter. Whatever you paid into that system, you still have the right to receive those benefits up until they expire. Like, you pay so much in, you're entitled to so much benefits that you paid in. And then once those are spent, because at some point you're not going to be paying back into that system, you'll be paying into our lawful system. And there will be kind of like a conversion and a transference. You'll go from all that commercial stuff over here to where things are more in the private, where they belong.
Yeah.
And you'll have all of your rights, and you'll have your inheritance, and you'll have access to, your GFG banking, and various things like that. And if you're an elected position, you'll be able to fill out proposals for grants to be able to get your agencies or offices up and running. And they're supposed to be able to get a grant that should fund you for at least 3 years while these conversions and transfers of power are taking place. To my knowledge, I mean, it could have a little differentiation in there.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's a subject I shy away from a little bit, because when I talk to people, I don't want to bring up the GFG, and everybody wants to know it's the Global Family Group. It's basically a banking system, that they're going to be bringing back our credit to us that's owed. But you know what? I don't want people to join the assemblies just for the chance of maybe some money, some credit, some money.
right.
I want them to be good people. I want them to actually want to work, because I want to be free. That, I've always wanted that. I'm tired of being harassed by people, by creditors, by, your bills, all kinds of stuff. Just want to be free.
Oh, I got news for
Yeah.
you. You are the original creditor. You are the principal interest. You are owed compounding interest from their securities fraud. So
Yeah.
that's, a little bit of knowledge
Well, show
for
me
you.
the money, show me the money. All right. So back to
Right.
the assemblies. How would you join unincorporated county assembly?
The unincorporated county assembly should have a couple different options. Either you should be able to find them on either a web page, or if, say, for instance, you get a hold of whatever outreaches at the state level, they should be able to direct you to whoever your county is. If you have people like us who are, elected county reeves filling lawful de jure sheriff positions, you could reach out to us and we could plug you in with that information. Likely, we're still reconstructing our offices and, filling positions. So, we'd be perfect for that. You could reach out to PSOA, the Peacekeeper Sheriff's Organization advocates, and they would be able to plug you in with various types of resources, or, get you in contact. But I think TASA has a website where you can go, and every state is on there, and you should be able to work it backwards from the state. Hey, I'm reaching out, outreach. Could you put me in contact with, whoever's on, Jade County or whatever it is? And you should hear something back within 72 hours. That's how it should work, unless if, you're here, that might take 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
For what
I
reason, I
like the way
don't
things
know.
are going. I get a lot of messages too, like on Facebook and YouTube, and and they have questions about that, and it's easy to direct them since we know the state assemblies in each state and a lot of the people that are involved. So it's easy to get them to the right people, and it's been working out. Helping a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we're a wealth of knowledge. I mean, we don't know everything. We know what we're supposed to be doing in our uniforms and how this all works and how our Article 3 court system works. We do educate peacekeepers, and we do lots of training and stuff like that for people across the country. Sometimes once a week, sometimes a couple times a month. It just depends. There's a lot of workflow issues that cause conflicts. A lot of times we get invited to other people's meetings. We do participate in our liaison training meetings through the PKTF. They have those all the time to get people trained up on how to go out and interface to kind of pave the way for peacekeepers that are, slowly coming on, getting their paperwork taken care of, getting status corrected, filling roles.
Yeah, I can't. I couldn't be happier with the PKTF. They get some think tanks over there where these group men and women, they're coming up with super ideas, super education, and it'd be a shame for any state, unincorporated state at this time, to not get involved. And to really get that free information and help. I mean, that's all they're trying to do is help you out. It's working out good for the sheriffs, I think.
Right. There's something else that's kind of been going around. I'm just going to go ahead and, correct it. There is one PKTF. There is not state PKTFs, whether the states created one to mimic. That don't know, don't care. There's one PKTF. And they do have liaison trainings. Andrew and myself are there just about on every one. And, there's a lot of people going around saying that they're liaisons. And I never see them at the meetings. So I don't know what they're doing or, who a lot of them are. I start getting emails and asked a lot of questions and to share my work with them. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. Yeah. I can't just divulge information like that. I don't know who you are. We have to be cautious minded. And other than that, I mean, if they're showing up to the meetings and I'm familiar with them, sure, all day long, I'll fill them at. Don't ask me to send you stuff because I'll flood your email. If it's somebody that I'm comfortable with and I know who they are, you're going to get an inundation. You'll be reading through next year.
Yeah. So we you went through a couple steps there of how to get involved, how to join your unincorporated county assembly.
Well, right. I mean, how to get involved. I mean, I don't think that we touched on it. I mean, there's like 4 steps. I mean, there could be maybe 1 or 2 more if you wanted to go more in depth, like getting involved with, like the PSO or the PKTF, which, you're going to learn about that stuff as you get going to meetings and stuff once you're papered up. So basically you're going to go, you could do a Google search. I would use like DuckDuckGo or something because, Google sometimes withholds information. So you'll locate your assembly, visit the American States Assembly, or connect with your state coordinator if you have one. Step 2 would be attend orientation calls. Like I think Ohio still has them on Tuesdays. Once the counties get like a good knowledge base and a couple people who can put those type of meetings on. I have a Zoom account, so I mean, I talk with half of my people. The rest of them, I can't get their information because, people at the state won't give it to me. I think it would be pertinent for them to give it to me, being that I am a sheriff here. I do need to be in touch with my people.
That's got to be county.
Sometimes you won't have those issues.
Sometimes it's got to be every county. They got to have the information,
Yeah, we should have a list, and if you can't get the list from either coordinator or just try to go through like your coordinator or your marshal at arms if you have one, or maybe reach out to like your Jural Assembly. I mean, they seem to have lists of people's names. But yeah, so 2, you would go to your orientation calls. Most assemblies have weekly calls or onboarding sessions. 3, you would be able to submit your status documents because assemblies require proof of status correction to participate lawfully. Like if you wanted to join your Jural Assembly and get involved in like jury duty, become a juror, or say you wanted to be like a court clerk or perhaps a bondsman or any of those types of things, any position, really. There's certain types of paperwork that you would need to have done to be able to qualify, to get into those types of positions. So, and then you have some that are, like a coordinator role, federation position. So you would not be acting as an ASN or an ASC in that capacity. Marshal at Arms, Federation position. Chief Continental Marshal, Federation position. County Reeve. Well, you could kind of go between ASC and ASN.
Yeah.
So,
well, for any of you out there that doesn't know what that means, it's American State National or American State Citizen. Whenever, me and Adam, myself, we were ASNs, but once we obtained this position, we became ASCs, American State Citizens, right?
When you're operating as a juror, you're going to be an American State Citizen temporarily until you're off duty, and then you go back to being American State National.
Yeah.
So, and then step 4 would be show up, attend meetings, get involved in voting as a lawful elector. That's how you contribute. And then, assemblies thrive on active participation. So you're going to want to show up actively. And we got a question. Lee says, what will happen to these old de facto sheriffs, cops, clerks, judges? Well, as this transition's happening, they're slowly going to, in some areas, the smaller municipalities, some of them will probably just go away altogether. Some of the bigger metropolitan areas, bigger cities are probably going to have a use for them, because no matter how much we press forward and how many people join and get status corrected, there's always going to be those who are, for lack of better words, sheeple. Sheeple do not want to self-govern. They want to feel comfortable, complacent, and they will conform to social norms. So with that, there's always going to be a need for a certain level of, even though, the municipalities and, the municipal corporations have all been dissolved since 2019. They're still operating, they're still doing their thing or whatever. And that's because they can get away with people not knowing history, not knowing what's going on. They're not paying attention to what's going on in the background behind all the theatrics with Trump and COVID and hoaxes and
well, and with the clerks and the judges, they'll still be operating in their jurisdiction, the C jurisdiction courts. Here it's your municipality. They're running stuff there that's corporations, contract stuff. So
right, we haven't had lawful judges since 1789. Yeah. So Leah's correct on that. We talked about that on probably 3 or 4 different podcasts. We kind of go into that stuff a little bit. Right now, we're just kind of talking at you a little bit about status correction, what it means for you to get yourself status corrected. There's a lot of different types of people out there, who claim to be gurus, or, we're not out here like these people on TikToks trying to get you to do David Straight stuff or to do these free man methods, or all these other different types of documents that have nothing to do with states assemblies. We have our lawful process. It's historical. It's how it was done back in the day before they unlawfully converted everybody into things and not people. And we're trying to stick to that script so that way it's historically correct. And once you do it, there's nothing that they can say to refute it or rebut it, or, and even if they did trespass, they would be guilty of, high crimes and misdemeanors, and they're probably going to swing for it at some point.
Yeah, well, we know what we're doing to good. This is all the right way. We just got to learn the way. And, the reason we was putting this together today is basically I started thinking about that old saying, you take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink, and it's like, I see so many people out here on Facebook, especially, and they just keep repeating the same stuff, keep showing the same pictures about the Constitution and Declaration and different UCC codes. And, and it's all that stuff's great, but at some point you got to take action. and we're showing people the way. We're showing them how to get their political status changed, get into your assemblies. Because I've said it before, you can look back at all the videos. Our remedy is not in their courts. Those courts are not for men and women. That's why we have to get our assemblies going, start up our common law courts, and that's when we take it back.
Right. I mean, there's always going to be sheep, even if they get status corrected. There's a lot of people who are followers. You can kind of herd them types of people into a group, and you can make use of them. We have a lot of people who are very complacent, and they want to have more of a like an activities group for older folks, and they don't really want to go out and notice, and go to council meetings and things of that nature. And some of them, they end up, biting their foot off because they start writing all of these types of things that are very aggressive and sending them places. And it's like, you should go out and break the ice, interface. You're not doing anything illegal or unlawful just to go out and shake hands, meet and greet. Hey, this is who I am, and go that route. And if for some reason, they don't hear what you had to say, you can start, doing your communications either via email or through the mail system, and go that route. But you don't start, kind of pissing people off before they even know who you are. That comes across as nefarious or extreme, and we're definitely not that. I mean, I will escalate things if I'm standing correctly in my square and I'm sending things out, properly asserting who I am and what I'm doing. And to have them try to violate that, yeah, I'm going to escalate it. I have that right, and it's my job and duty to do that. But if they still don't take heed, then we're going to have an issue. I've got a couple investigations going on right now they're just bonkers, but we'll come to a conclusion at some point. We're kind of right now just very 101 high level, touching on some of the issues. I mean, Andrew and myself, we've been out here doing this for me in the flesh 5 years, but I've always been aware just because of information passed down through relatives and just knowledge transfers that have happened either through education or friends or family.
All right.
Fifth generation.
Say, so we got
Yep.
why you should change political status, kind of how to change your political status, and you can find all this stuff on the TASA website. You can find it on claimyourinheritance.info going across the screen there. And, why to join your county assembly and how. But I think one of the most important parts that we should be talking about is these official notices that, I'm not sure how many people are doing it around the country, but I know you are, and I have been, and it's great because I'm learning more and more what it can do for us in my county in the long run. And I put down the question, why should you put official notices on record in these incorporated city council and board of commissioner meetings? And, even if you're corrected your status and joined your assembly, the incorporated government still operates in your area. It's still here. It's still operating. So that's why it's critical to put these official notices on record in their meetings. They lead to, well, the question is why, Adam? Why is it important to put these things on record?
Well, do you want the long answer? Because I do have something prepared.
Give it to them. Feed the people.
Okay, well, I'll go off the short and then I'll kind of expound from there.
All right.
Why I'm doing what I'm doing and why you're kind of following suit. So the incorporated councils, these board councils, whatever you have at your city, municipality, or county, your boards that, your commissioners, all those types of folks, they're required to acknowledge public notices, for one. So if I go in there and say, hey, I have, this is notarized, I'd like to put it on the record, they have to put that on the record.
Yeah.
We haven't had any issues with that yet. We're using lawful language, common language. We're not using legalese or nothing like that. And then, these types of notices, they can include declarations of status, standing, um, objections to ordinances, codes, proposals for funding, that would make taxpayers have to pay, tons more money every year, it's just getting so ridiculous now. I think mine are up 19% since I bought my house. That's ridiculous. So, and it never ends. So that's what these types of notices are for, because you need to be able to go into these places and do whatever assertions of assembly or authority that a body of people have. You guys have the right to go and put these people on notice. They work for you. Okay? They're foreign subcontractor agents, whether they acknowledge that or not. They think they just got to, sweet, I'm a board member on the city council. Hey, you know what? You're going to hear it, bud, and I don't really care if you like it or not. I mean, I'm going to come in there and you're going to hear some critique that you're probably going to, do the plausible. I don't know what you mean. No, once you get noticed, that's it. Plausible deniability is out the window. You're done. No more cooking the books. No more letting your buddies come in with their proposals and, building new developments that, give them kickbacks and revenue. And all those days are done because the people aren't paying for it anymore.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's
hey,
why
Random Rabbit
do.
Trail is saying that there's a county out in Oregon that's not taking heed. Well, I'll tell you what, Random Rabbit Trail, always remember you can self-govern and do it yourself, Just go for it. Don't be afraid. Change your political status if you're state national. Write up some notices. Take them into your city councils. Get them notarized and put them on the record. Let them know who you are. Let them know where you're standing.
There was something else I wanted to touch on, like earlier when I was talking about, a few different types of assemblies. So you got territorial, you got district, you got, our type of assembly, our state's assembly. We're not commercial. We're not the Ohio State Assembly in all caps. That
The
right there
state
should
of Ohio, yeah.
State of Ohio, yeah. That's all commercial. That's all these theatrical actors that are in place. For instance, an acting judge. Well, they put acting in front of it because they're an administrative law judge, so we know they're actors. We don't do secured party creditor stuff. That's not what we do. Are we capable of doing those types of things once being status corrected? Sure. But, I highly advise against going into these de facto places and using their stuff because their prosecution rate and their win rate is so high because of the agreements and collusion and conspiracy going on to deprive you of your rights. I stopped doing that stuff a while ago because even though I might have had successes doing certain types of things, getting people removed, even if you're going after damages or Monell claims or any of those types of things, and you're very knowledgeable and you can go in there and just cite all of the stuff and lay your paperwork out and do all that type of stuff. They don't like pro se litigants. Very rarely do they let you say you're sui juris or pro per.
Well, my big thing is just
Yeah.
not getting into them courts. Remember, I've been saying that forever.
Right.
They're not for us. We got to stay out of them. But you know what? When you look at it, just think of the judge works for the state. The prosecutor works for the state. If you get an attorney, they work for the state. So it's 3 against 1. You're up shit creek without a paddle.
And the majority of them are bar members. They're all part of that secret oath that they take.
Insane.
And
it's insanity. But hey,
it's collusion and conspiracy at its finest. This isn't about what we're doing. We can sit here and kind of joke or be a little cynical. There's nothing wrong with being cynical. We have to have some type of dark humor because the type of stuff that we're dealing with, the severity of it and what it means for people's rights and liberties, Um, you know, we have a passion, obviously. This is a calling
Oh, yeah.
to stand up for people and advocate for people's rights and go and defend them. And when we have these bad actors in place, stonewalling, not wanting to really take heed, if you will, with that terminology, um, you have to put together a plan of action, and then you have to start executing. So, um, as far as removing yourself from like BMV, DMV, that type of thing, or status correcting, you still have a lot of hurdles to go through because if you ever get pulled over, um, you're going to end up having these guys lose their shit on the side of the road over a piece of plastic. If you don't have it, we've already talked about this.
Yeah.
That's their crack. They want that piece of plastic. They don't have the right to ask for your social, so never give your social. Never give
Well, Adam,
court
real
your
quick,
social.
there's St. Frog Dog in the comments area, and he says he's from Darke County, Ohio. I think I talked to you about this before. Hey, St. Frog Dog, if you can message me on Facebook or YouTube or something. I'm originally from Mercer County, so just a county above you. Be good to talk sometime. See if we can get you guys helped out over there. But go ahead, Dad. I'm sorry for stopping your
Oh,
mojo there.
there's a lot of engagement in the chat. So the state claiming that they are the party to the cause, then contract is null and void. So this is what Lee's saying. The state cannot be an injured party because the state is a legal fiction or a corporate fiction, an entity that exists on paper. It is not a living man or woman, therefore it cannot be injured. It cannot hear, it cannot, speak. If a prosecutor is speaking on behalf of the state, that's why they're called a friend of the court. And various other silly little reasons. What'll happen is you can challenge that a couple different types of ways, but the outcome depends on how much you can rattle that ALJ. And a lot of them just simply don't care because they have a big red button where they can push and 20 guys come jump on you. So that's why we try to steer clear of
I'll tell you what, I think we ought to pass out here in Ohio, anyone that's anybody, even if you're a U.S. citizen, we ought to pass out some kind of little badge or little button. If you had a panic button hit on you in any of these commercial buildings, downtowns in your cities, if you had a panic button hit on you, I think you deserve a little medal, because it's actually pretty funny stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They come charging in like you committed murder,
Well, I mean, or you could get yourself put on a, shall not pass list. You go to get to the metal detector and the guy comes up and he goes, you can't go in. Well, Why not? I'm just here to file some paperwork for a case. Well, it says right here that you're hostile, and that you're an enemy combatant to the state, and that you're here doing nefarious things. And it's like, well, what are you talking about? I don't have a record. I'm not violent. What the hell? So then, that type of stuff happens. It's because you're hitting the nerves of the bank. The bank does not like when you hit it in its nerves.
Yeah.
So, like when you put the bank on notice, you're not putting the court and its staff on notice. You're putting the bank on notice. That way it becomes a conflict of interest for any other one. You know how they like to kick it to their buddy. Here, take this case. I got to excuse myself or recuse myself. And then the next thing they kick it to their buddy. Well, if you put the whole bank on notice, that's it. It's done. There ain't going to be none of that. So what I was going to do to expound on what we were talking about earlier is this all goes back to Chevron being overturned. So the United States Supreme Court ruling overturning a Chevron case law. The administrative state is known as government's corporation through commercial contracts called compacts. We know this.
Yeah.
The administrative state can no longer usurp your constitutional rights. The administrative county can no longer usurp your constitutional rights. The administrative county sheriff, Candy, I'm talking to you, can no longer usurp your constitutional rights to travel without a commercial license, registration, or insurance.
Hey, that's
Those
going
are
to
done.
Steve Sheldon too. You better listen up.
Yes, Steve, buddy old pal. The administrative county clerk can no longer usurp your constitutional rights to an Article 3 court. If I invoked Article 3 2 years ago, then they better start giving people Article 3, even though they're not qualified to do that because they're not Americans. They're foreign subcontractor agents. And most of them are foreign agents anyways under the Federal Registration Act. So the administrative county clerk can no longer usurp constitutional rights to an Article 3 court. The administrative county commissioners can no longer usurp your constitutional rights for the sake of development. And the administrative county commissioners, your councils, your boards who deal with the funding and spending all your monies that you pay in frivolously, they can no longer usurp your constitutional rights for the sake of revenue and development. So you have a right to go in there and redress your employees, tell them to knock the shit off, and you ain't having it. And if they don't like it, kick rocks. But this isn't about confrontation. I'm being a funny guy.
Yeah.
It's about lawful presence. It's about letting them know that there is a body politic of status corrected Americans. We are back. We are here. And we're awake. We're organized. We're reclaiming our jurisdiction back. You guys have no lawful authority. All your legal, statutory, civil nonsense. Those days are slowly closing.
I'd just like more of the people listening, or tell your buddies, tell your friends, tell everybody to start getting these notices. Come up with your own notices. Get them on these city council meetings on record. And it's not that you're doing something amazing. It leads a paper trail. It leads, they've been noticed. They've been, sooner or later it's going to help you out in the long run. So let's get in there
So
and
I
get
had
them
a
out.
question. Says what document was that I'm reading? So I was reading, like, if you go into Westlaw or you go into Cornell and you look up what the annotated law, the finding was for Chevron.
Yeah.
It'll give you a summary of overturned. And so I like looking at annotative law, case law, because you should probably read the whole case. I do. I usually go back, but if I just need the clip notes, I go and look at the annotations so that way I can just get the key points, a lot of times I'm just refreshing my memory. But I read the original one from what'd that start in the 30s or 40s, and then it was shot down in like 85. So I read from 83 to 85 when it was shut down the first time. And then everything got overturned. So I had to see what the new argument was. And so that's pretty much what it was. Just looking up the annotated law. I think I see the
Ohio Bell on here. Ain't that something? How's it going, Bell?
Yeah. That's my secretary. Be nice.
I'll tell you what, Adam. I've got a call to action that I need to put out,
Go for it.
Yeah. If you're ready to stop being a passenger in your own country and start talking and start taking the bull by the horns, let's begin with your political status. Reclaim it. Join your county or state assembly. Put your notices in on record, and this is how we restore lawful governance. One county at a time. We got to do it. So, anyways, I guess we're out of here then, huh?
Unless if you got something else.
I just wanted to say that we are taking donations. If anybody wants to help, Cash App, APC, $ Cash App, $ APC 140. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like these videos. It'd be great. Adam, you got a shout out to your channel?
I haven't been very active on there dealing with family stuff, but the Reeves Shop Talk 44 on Rumble.
Reeves Shop Talk. Everybody check it out. But thanks for everybody stopping by. I like all the comments, you know.
Yeah, stay active, stay vigilant.
Yeah, let's get it out, spread the word. We're back, baby. All right, we'll see everybody later. Adam, thanks a lot again.
Hey, hold on one sec. When are we
Alright.
going to be on here talking again? Sometime next week, or maybe Friday?
Yeah, I might try to get one halfway through the week, maybe.
All right, sounds good. There you go, Julie.
But she had a question?
Well, she just wanted to know when we was going to be live again. We do this kind of sporadically, so.
You know what, tell her, I'm going to start trying to put out on Facebook or YouTube when we'll be going live. So maybe, you know, if you follow, you know, it's not Restore the Public on Facebook. It's Andrew Ike. So it's me. That's where I put out my messages. So, all right, Adam. Thanks a lot
Thanks
again.
for having
And we'll see everybody later.
Have a good night.
You too.